What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined by Daniel Starkand. We've got a fresh new look here as we head into the offseason. We're talking free agents. This is going to be a series of videos looking at each of the free agents that the Dodgers have up, and we will start with the guy who is the headliner for a number of reasons, and that is Clayton Kershaw. News broke earlier this week that Kershaw was not extended a qualifying offer. Matt and I broke down some thoughts as to why that might be. Is he retiring? Is he really injured? Are they letting him walk to somewhere else? Do they already have a deal in place with him? So, Daniel, we'll start there before we get into specifics, but Clayton Kershaw not extended a qualifying offer. I imagine you were surprised, but walk me through how you're making sense of that piece of news.
Yeah, I definitely was surprised. I thought it was kind of a no-brainer that he'd at least get a qualifying offer, probably decline it. And then if he signed somewhere else, the Dodgers get a draft pick back for him. They decided not to do that. I don't think anyone really
Yeah.
knows the real reason yet. Like no one has said anything. For me, I think I'd probably say like the best case scenario is that like you just said they're already either I wouldn't say have a deal in place, but they're working out a deal with him, and both sides are confident that they'll get something done and he'll be back. And players could only receive qualifying offers once in their career. So maybe let's say they're signing him to a 2-year extension. Then they in 2 years down the line they could
Mm.
still give him the qualifying offer. Them, that's probably the
We like
optimistic
optimism here.
view of what's happening. I'd say the pessimistic is the other things you said. He could potentially be retiring, but even if he was retiring,
Yeah.
I don't know like what giving or not giving a qualifying offer would mean as far as that goes. Like he could be given a qualifying offer, still decline it, and then retire if he wanted to. So I'd say he's not retiring. I'd say the most likely scenario on the pessimistic side is that the arm is worse than was
Yeah.
originally reported. Maybe he won't be ready for the start of next season, so they weren't comfortable giving him the
Yeah.
18 million or whatever the qualifying offer is worth. Um, but even with that, I still think the likelihood of him resigning would be still pretty high, but it would just be for less money than he wanted or that the Dodgers were expecting to give him. And I guess you could look at
Yeah.
that as a positive if you want. Like, yeah, Kershaw might not be healthy for half the season, but the Dodgers are getting him for cheaper. And then the third is the nightmare scenario of like the Dodgers just wanted to give him the respect of not having a
Yeah.
qualifier attached to him as he goes and talks to other teams in free agency. I feel like that's pretty unlikely just because we know how much
Yeah.
Andrew Friedman values, young assets and draft picks and such. And I don't think as beloved as Clayton Kershaw is and as much as he's done for this organization, I don't think Andrew Friedman would do something like that won't help out the organization
Yeah.
just to do a solid for Kershaw. So I'm not really sure what the real reason is. I'm hoping it's just because they're working out something and he's going to resign shortly here. I think we saw that happen a couple years ago when he was a free agent. Like he just worked out an extension basically right around this time, like before anything got going. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case, but I definitely think it was odd that he
Yeah.
didn't get
Yeah,
that
and
qualifying
shifting to
offer.
kind of what we can focus on and what we do know, which is, admittedly very little. We don't know how healthy his forearm is, but if we set aside why the qualifying offer, why
Right.
not, etc., let's talk about Clayton Kershaw, the player. Last season, now he's entering his age 34 season. He only made 22 starts last year, a 3.55 ERA, one of the worst marks of his career. He did have a 3.00 FIP. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball when he was healthy. His strikeout rate was the highest since 2017. But again, the injury piece matters. He hasn't made 30 starts since 2015. I think most people estimated that 18 to 20 million ish range was probably about right for somebody like Kershaw. But assuming there is some semblance of health, I assume you want Clayton Kershaw back next year.
Yeah, I mean, beyond the field, I think
Yeah.
just because I couldn't stand seeing him in another uniform, like that would just be too weird. He's done too much for the Dodgers, accomplished so much with the Dodgers. I just couldn't imagine him in another uniform. But you just laid it out. Like he's
Yeah.
dealt with a lot of injuries, and he hasn't pitched the full season in like 5 years now. And it's not like these are just one-off type injuries. Like he's dealt with back issues, he's dealt with shoulder issues, and now he's dealing with an elbow issue,
Yeah.
which is probably the worst of them all. So, I don't know what production he's gonna give now that
Yeah.
he's in the back half of his career. I'll say, like, I know he was still good this past year when he did pitch, so there's confidence there that hey, if this guy's healthy, he's still probably not going to give you ace numbers, but a really good number 2 or number 3. Like that's a guy who could still help produce on a winning ball club. But with the health concerns, I think that's probably bringing his price down a lot. And I definitely don't think he's looking at any sort of long-term deal, like maybe 2 years, maybe 3 at the very, very most, I'd say. And I don't even know how much longer he wants to pitch, if we're being honest. We threw out the retirement thing. I don't think now is the time that he's going to retire, but I also don't think he's trying to be Tom Brady and pitch till he's 45. Maybe he's got 2 or 3 years left in him, and then he'll ride off into the sunset. But I definitely would be interested in bringing him back, just not for, top dollar, 30 million a year or whatever. But like you said, if it's 15, 20 million, whatever it is on a shorter term deal, I definitely think he could still give you good enough production to kind of live up to that contract, plus all the sentimental reasons that come with keeping Kershaw.
We've got 6 of these
Dodger
videos
Blue.
that we are doing, some of which might already be posted, where we walk through all of the existing free agents that the Dodgers have. The 6th video will be kind of the catch-all for numbers 6 through 11. For me, the Kershaw is the one where I set my brain aside really quickly, and I just speak entirely with my heart. To me, Clayton Kershaw re-signing with the Dodgers should be the number 1 priority this offseason. Is that the number 1 priority in the sense of going to help you win next year? No, I understand that. I'm not saying they should ignore winning. I'm just saying, to me, Clayton Kershaw, if he is going to play baseball next season, has to be a Dodger. He has to be a Dodger. And so I understand the injury concerns. He is just 34, which is fascinating, because one of the other conversations we've had is Max Scherzer, who's going into his 38-year-old season, and he is like at the peak of his powers, it feels like at times. And so for me, I understand Clayton Kershaw. I understand the health concerns. But when I look at the production, he is still productive. And I look at how the Dodgers have prioritized. Look, we care only about winning championships and winning in October. Kershaw is the type of guy that you want in that situation. If he only gives you 20 starts and you need to sit him down for a month at a time, a couple times, just to keep him fresh so that when you come to sort of, crunch time, he's ready for you, I think it makes a lot of sense to keep Clayton Kershaw around. And Andrew Friedman has mentioned as much. He said, like, hey, this isn't just a business decision when it comes to Clayton Kershaw. We understand what he means to the organization. We understand what he means to the city. And so, that's the good news. But then when he doesn't get extended the qualifying offer, and here we are a couple days later, and there's just no news. There's no rumors. There's no reports. There's nothing. It's very weird. So definitely something to monitor. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Dodger Blue 1958 on social media, Dodger Blue 1958 here on YouTube as well. We'll have all the latest information on that. So stay tuned. Let us know below. I mean, what's a reasonable contract extension for Clayton Kershaw that you think? Would you let him walk? Let us know below in the comments. So that's Daniel Starkand. My name's Jeff Spiegel. We appreciate you joining us as always. As I said, we got tons of video coming out this week, free agency stuff, and in the weeks to come. So make sure you're subscribed, ring the notification bell. We'll see you soon.
The best team holding a trophy high in the air. The Los Angeles Dodgers, champions of the baseball world.